the greatest battles of the Roman Empire, the conflicts that changed history. Dawn broke over the battlefield in complete silence. Thousands of Roman legionaries stood shoulder to shoulder, gripping their shields tightly. Their faces were calm, yet every soldier knew that within minutes, many of them would never see another sunrise. In the distance, a low rumble echoed across the plain. The enemy army was approaching. The commander raised his hand. A trumpet sounded. The legions began to march forward. This was how the battles that shaped not only the fate of the Roman Empire, but also the future of Western civilization began. The history of Rome is a story of remarkable victories and devastating defeats. Some battles opened the door to new conquests. Others marked the beginning of Rome's decline. Nearly all of them left mysteries that historians continue to debate today. The Battle of Cannae, Rome's greatest defeat, 216 BC, the Second Punic War. In southern Italy, two powerful armies prepared to meet. The Romans assembled nearly 80,000 soldiers, one of the largest armies of the ancient world. Facing them stood the Carthaginian general Hannibal, commanding a much smaller force. But he possessed one priceless advantage: military genius. As the Roman legions advanced, Hannibal deliberately allowed the center of his army to slowly fall back. Believing the enemy was collapsing, the Romans pushed forward with overwhelming force. It was exactly what Hannibal had planned. His strongest troops attacked both Roman flanks while his cavalry swept behind the Roman army. Within moments, the Romans found themselves completely surrounded. What followed became one of history's greatest military disasters. Modern historians estimate that more than 50,000 Roman soldiers were killed in a single day. Even by ancient standards, the loss was extraordinary. More than 2,000 years later, military academies around the world still study Cannae as one of the finest examples of a double envelopment in military history. Alesia, Julius Caesar's greatest victory, 52 BC. The Gallic tribes, united under Vercingetorix, launched the largest rebellion Rome had ever faced in Gaul. After a series of battles, the Gallic army withdrew into the fortified hill town of Alesia. At first glance, Julius Caesar appeared trapped. Inside the fortress were tens of thousands of defenders. Outside, another massive Gallic army was gathering to break the siege. Most commanders would have retreated. Caesar did the impossible. He ordered the construction of two enormous defensive walls. The inner line surrounded Alesia, preventing anyone from escaping. The outer line faced outward, preparing for the approaching relief army. The Roman legions now stood between two enemy forces. For days, fierce fighting erupted on both sides. The Gauls attacked from inside the fortress while reinforcements assaulted the Roman defenses from outside. The pressure was relentless, yet Roman discipline held. Eventually, Vercingetorix surrendered. The victory secured Roman control of Gaul and transformed Julius Caesar into one of history's greatest military commanders. The Teutoburg Forest, the day 3 legions, vanished AD 9. Emperor Augustus believed the lands beyond the Rhine had finally been brought under Roman control. 3 Roman legions, commanded by Publius Quinctilius Varus, marched through the dense forests of Germania. They were accompanied by supply wagons, civilians, servants, and thousands of animals. Then the weather changed. Heavy rain turned the narrow forest paths into deep mud. Progress slowed dramatically. At that moment, the Germanic leader Arminius, who had once served Rome and understood Roman tactics perfectly, led the legions into a carefully prepared ambush. For several days, Germanic warriors launched surprise attacks from the forest. The Romans could not form their traditional battle lines. Their long marching columns stretched for miles. Communication between units collapsed. One by one, the legions ceased to exist. The 17th, the 18th, the 19th. After the disaster, these legion numbers were never used again by the Roman army. According to the ancient historian Suetonius, Emperor Augustus was devastated by the defeat. For months, he is said to have cried, "Quinctilius Varus, give me back my legions." Today, archaeologists continue excavating the battlefield near Kalkries in Germany. Weapons, armor, coins, and military equipment discovered there continue to reveal new details about one of the most dramatic defeats in Roman history. When victory becomes legend, each of these battles changed the course of history. Cannae proved that even the most powerful army could be destroyed through brilliant strategy. Alesia secured Rome's conquest of Gaul and reshaped the future of Western Europe. The Teutoburg Forest halted Roman expansion deep into Germania and established a frontier that would endure for centuries. Yet even greater turning points still lay ahead. One battle would end the Roman Republic, another would decide the fate of Egypt, and a final catastrophic defeat would signal the beginning of Rome's long decline. The dust had barely settled over the battlefield. Broken shields, abandoned standards, and the bodies of fallen soldiers lay scattered across the ground. Rome had won countless victories, but some victories carried a hidden cost, a cost that would ultimately shape the destiny of the entire empire. In Part 1, we witnessed the catastrophe at Cannae, Julius Caesar's triumph at Alesia, and the destruction of 3 Roman legions in the Teutoburg Forest. Now we turn to the battles that transformed the Roman Republic into an empire and later foreshadowed its gradual decline. Pharsalus, the battle that ended the Roman Republic. The Roman world was divided. On one side stood Julius Caesar, a brilliant commander, conqueror of Gaul, and the beloved leader of his legions. On the other stood Pompey the Great, once Caesar's ally, now his greatest rival. This was not a war against a foreign enemy. It was a civil war. Romans fought Romans. Friends became enemies. In 48 BC, the two armies finally met near Pharsalus in Greece. Pompey commanded the larger force. Most of the Roman Senate supported him. To many observers, Caesar's defeat seemed inevitable. But Caesar understood something his opponent did not. Pompey expected a conventional battle. Caesar was prepared to risk everything. When Pompey's cavalry charged Caesar's right flank, Caesar unleashed a carefully concealed reserve of infantry. The unexpected counterattack shattered the cavalry. Soon, Pompey's entire army began to collapse. Within hours, the battle was over. Pompey fled to Egypt. Caesar emerged as the dominant figure in Rome. Officially, the Roman Republic still existed. In reality, after Pharsalus, the old republican system would never fully recover. Within a few years, Caesar became dictator for life. Soon afterward, he was assassinated. Rome once again descended into civil war. Actium, the battle that created the Roman Empire. The Mediterranean shimmered beneath the bright sun. Hundreds of warships gathered off the coast of Greece. This was far more than a naval engagement. The future of the Roman world hung in the balance. On one side stood Octavian, the adopted son and heir of Julius Caesar. On the other were Mark Antony and Queen Cleopatra, the 7th of Egypt. Ancient writers transformed this conflict into a legendary story of love, ambition, and betrayal. But beneath the legend lay a simple truth. Whoever won at Actium would rule Rome. Octavian's fleet was commanded by the brilliant admiral Marcus Vipsanius Agrippa. His ships were lighter and more maneuverable. Antony possessed larger vessels, but they were slower and less flexible. As the battle unfolded, confusion spread throughout Antony's fleet. Then came the moment historians still debate. Cleopatra's squadron suddenly broke away from the fighting and sailed into the open sea. Antony followed her. Leaderless, the remaining fleet quickly collapsed. Victory belonged to Octavian. The consequences were enormous. Egypt became a Roman province. Mark Antony and Cleopatra later died. Octavian became the sole ruler of the Roman world. In 27 BC, he received the title Augustus. The Roman Empire had been born. Without the victory at Actium, Augustus might never have become Rome's first emperor. And without Augustus, the history of the ancient world might have unfolded very differently. Adrianople, the warning, Rome failed to heed for centuries. The Roman legions had been regarded as nearly invincible. Their discipline inspired fear. Their formations appeared unstoppable. But in AD 378, near the city of Adrianople, everything changed. Emperor Valens decided to attack the Goths without waiting for reinforcements. It proved to be a fatal decision. The Roman army marched for hours beneath the blazing summer sun. Many soldiers entered battle already exhausted. At first, it seemed the legions might break the Gothic defenses. Then everything changed. The Gothic cavalry suddenly returned to the battlefield. They struck the Roman flanks with devastating force. The Roman formation collapsed. Panic spread rapidly. Thousands of soldiers were killed. Emperor Valens himself died during the battle. His body was never conclusively identified. Modern historians regard the Battle of Adrianople as one of the most significant turning points of late antiquity. Not because Rome fell immediately afterward, it did not, but because the battle demonstrated that Rome's once unbeatable military machine was no longer invincible. The battles that changed the world viewed together, these battles reveal just how profoundly they shaped world history. Cannae proved that even the strongest army could suffer catastrophic defeat. Alesia secured Roman rule over Gaul. The Teutoburg Forest halted Rome's expansion into Germania. Pharsalus effectively ended the Roman Republic. Actium marked the birth of the Roman Empire. Adrianople became a powerful warning of the empire's future struggles and gradual military decline. The greatest mystery of Roman warfare. Perhaps the most fascinating question is not simply who won. It is how close history came to unfolding in an entirely different way. What if Hannibal had marched directly on Rome after Cannae? What if Caesar had lost at Pharsalus? What if Antony had emerged victorious at Actium? What if Valens had defeated the Goths at Adrianople? We will never know the answers. Yet these battles shaped the civilization we know today. Their outcomes influenced governments, borders, languages, laws, and cultures across Europe and beyond. Conclusion. As the sun set over those ancient battlefields, the surviving soldiers could never have imagined that they had witnessed history being rewritten. For them, it was simply another day of war. Another battle, another struggle to survive. But for humanity, these conflicts transformed nations, altered civilizations, and changed the course of history forever. And perhaps that is Rome's greatest mystery. Not that its legions fought so many battles, but that the fate of the greatest empire of the ancient world was often decided within the span of a single afternoon.